Roku has what you need to make your college home away from home feel more like your own. Make your dorm the place to be with Roku TV, or bring a Roku streaming stick to easily access all your favorite free and premium content like iHeartRadio. Stream your favorite playlist with the Roku Vibe Setting Smart Light strips to sync your music to millions of colors and make your dorm feel more like you. Make your dorm the place to be with Roku TVs, streaming players, and smart lights. Head to Roku.com or your favorite retailer to deck out your dorm.
The Philadelphia Eagles are Super Bowl champions.
It's over! Fly, Eagles, fly!
Celebrate the big win with the official licensed Super Bowl champions gear. Available now at NFLshop.com.
The Eagles win it! Super Bowl 59!
From jerseys to hats to must-have collectibles, we've got everything you need to rep your team with pride. Don't wait. These styles won't last. Shop now at NFLshop.com and gear up like a champion.
Deciding on what to listen to is hard. Using Zumo to stream music from iHeart 90s radio is easy. Or play iHeart Country or Hip Hop Beats. Your choice, all for free. Stream easy with Zumo Play. Get live and on-demand entertainment with no logins, no signups, no accounts, no hassle. This February, stay in and watch Glory starring Denzel Washington and Matthew Broderick, or the rom-com Breaking All the Rules with Jamie Foxx and Gabrielle Union. All streaming free on Zumo Play. Go to play.zumo.com now. Life is hard. Zumo is easy.
Grand in Your Hand is back on KFAN. We have 9 chances for you to win $1,000 every weekday. That's every hour from 9 a.m. till 5 p.m. To enter the keywords and learn more, head to KFAN.com.
If I had to go pie chart of blame from the Hopkins-Wayzata debacle last night, I'd say 65% Hopkins, 35% Wayzata. That's where I think I would land on it. 65-35, especially when you factor in the student part of it, throwing a garbage can at the players and the coaching staff. Ridiculous. Again, I ask, where are the adults? Where are the adults? And the Hopkins stuff started from the first possession of the game with the head coach complaining about the calls. That, of course, goes unchecked. Assistant coaches, same thing. That goes unchecked. I'd say they probably instigated most of it. Wayzata coach didn't handle it well at the end. I go 65-35 in my final countdown, my final bit. We might get back to it. We might not. We'll see if we get any reaction from either of the schools. It'd be great to hear from the high school league, too. Any reaction? Are we good with that? Are we cool with that? That's what we want for 2 of our higher profile programs. And in one case, like our 50-year legendary head coach, we're good with all that, just holding up a game, not getting teed, that whole bit. I'd love to hear reaction. I doubt we will, because I don't think we ever have when it comes to coaches' behavior on that regard. Let's turn the page a little bit, although Pat Micheletti we see things eye to eye on a lot of different things. That's why we've gotten along over the years. He was the house band on the Cake Show, rest in peace, for many, many, many Sundays, historically from 11 to 1 right here on The Fan. But he joins now from Ann Arbor, Michigan, because an hour from now, Gopher Hockey is back in action to take on the Michigan Wolverines. And we got a lot to get to with Pat. I want to start with a little bit of a curveball, though, Pat Micheletti. How are you, first of all, in the Connecticut Water Systems hotline?
I'm great, and it's always great to talk to you, Justin. You know that. I'm good.
I love it. So earlier this week, I did not bring this up, but I know Royce wrote about it, and then Dan talked about it. The age-old Williams Arena question popped up, and
yes,
that's a topic we've probably talked about over the years.
Yeah, we did.
Yeah, I haven't spent a ton of time on it lately. I think most people know my opinions on it. We spent about an hour on it, though, because it is interesting, and I do know that they're heavy in considering and trying to figure out exactly what they're going to do. But I think the hockey community is a good place to start on it, and I kind of stumbled upon it late in the conversation a couple of days ago. That you played in Old Mariucci, correct?
Correct.
That's where you played. I never got to see Old Mariucci. I see the pictures when I go to New Mariucci. I hear you guys talk about it. I hear all the stories about leaving an intermission and going to drink at Station 19 and then popping back in. And you guys talking about sharing the hallway with Kevin McHale and Flip Saunders, and Lou Nanne shared it with Bobby Bell and Carl Eller when they'd play pickup at Williams, the whole bit, coming up the steps, seeing the crowd, all of it. Magical, majestic.
And I'm going to add a little bit more. Taking the tunnel under University Avenue to go into the football stadium.
Oh, I didn't realize you could do that.
Yeah, and then right into Cook Hall, which is no longer there, right? And that's how we got into the games.
That's as good as it gets, right?
Into Memorial Stadium, yeah.
So here's the point. Gopher football has survived, I think, at Huntington Bank Stadium, and
yes.
Gopher hockey, I would say, certainly has survived, even though they left old Mariucci, built a new arena across the street, and people have their thoughts on Mariucci. It's probably too big at the moment, but guess what? They're filling it now because the team's really good, and the vibe's awesome. But my point is, Pat, you always have the good memories and the vibes. It's okay to maybe embrace the new. What do you think about that whole topic?
Oh, well, as we talk about this, I'm sitting in Yost Arena, a building that's well over 100 years old, that, Michigan will probably be in this building forever. It's old. It looks old. They try to spice it up a little bit, but it's got that feel, right? That you're in a building. Now, I never understood why Minnesota moved and built their new building, Mariucci Arena, across the street. Did, so be it. But I have a little something in me for the older buildings to a certain degree.
Yep.
But, where we are in this day and age, Justin, it's like keeping up with the Joneses. And if you don't, then you suffer as a program for whatever reason. So, I feel for that building because there's a lot of memories in there, both on the basketball side and obviously for me, the hockey side. But, it looks like that's the direction everyone is going. So, Minnesota might just have to follow suit.
My point on a lot of it, Pat, is we ask a lot of our fans at Williams Arena. It's not the easiest building to get to, first of all. Nothing on the U is, right, because of the traffic and the log jams, and there's basically 2 rows in, 2 rows out. It's a little dicey sometimes.
Yes.
But then to get around and to go up the stairs and to sit on the benches and to do all of that, it's just a tough ask for me in 2025, certainly as fans get older, which a lot of Gopher basketball fans are. My point is, whatever you want to do, renovate it, build a new one, I'm good with whatever. Make it the best possible fan experience that you can make it to make it easy for you to go attend a game.
No question about it. And if that's the route they go, like you said, so be it. Because when that place gets rocking, there's not another building like it, correct? And you feel the nostalgia and all of that. But I'm with you, Justin, 100%. But make up your mind, do something, and we're in an age of all about the fans, which it should be, because they're paying the freight, and you got to make them, you got to please them.
All right, so let's talk Four Nations Cup first. Everybody was kind of curious. Everybody was wondering how it was going to be received. I haven't caught a ton of it. I was in Columbus last night for women's basketball, and so I didn't see the first USA game, but it seems like dudes were ready to play. Like, they're excited about this thing. So give me kind of your 2 cents on how the tournament has gone so far.
Well, in a tournament like this, you're out of it before you know it, unless you come ready to play. And there is something about putting on that uniform of your country, whether it be Sweden, Finland, Canada, or the U.S., that you just play with so much pride, and you could tell by the players and every ego, and there are a ton of egos at that playing in that tournament. They were there to play, all 4 of the teams, and it was tremendous hockey. Canada is loaded, the U.S. is loaded, and Sweden, after taking that punch in the nose by Canada in that first period, really played well. So, I think the tournament's been great so far.
What kind of lift do you think this could give your guy, the Gus Bus? It seems like he was pretty fired up to get the nod there, and it meant a lot to him, as you would expect.
Well, listen, he played great, but I think if you look at all the defensemen and the D-core of the 4 teams, Sweden has the best D-core imaginable, in my opinion. That helps a lot. But he certainly came up. I mean, he made a save off Devin Taves to keep the game tied. And he was terrific. And I think it'll only boost his confidence when he gets back with the Wild.
And you would hope with Boldy and Faber connecting last night as well that.
How about our Wild players?
All we do is win. We're the state of hockey. All we do is just pump this tournament full of good product.
Well, Eriksson Ek, getting a goal, and I think he had a goal in the or did he have 2 goals? He was great. Brodin scored. And we saw what Faber and Boldy did, and that's great for our locals.
You see it on the college side too when guys leave to play in the World Juniors. To take a break in the middle of the season and then play something that has pretty high stakes. Obviously, this does on the professional side. World Juniors does for the kids that do that in December. So when they come back, like I'm sure you talked to the guys that played, and obviously Matthew Wood almost made it, then came back for that series against Michigan State. What does it have any meaningful lift? Do they come back ready? Do they come back with rust? Like what should we expect in a couple of weeks when the NHL season starts again?
Well, this is one of the few years that the Gopher kids came back and they didn't miss a beat. But in years past, it has affected a lot of players and mainly Gophers because there are a lot of Gophers on those teams, and it took a while, and you get fatigued. And it takes you a good 2-3 weeks to get back. But this tournament is short. This tournament is in Canada and Massachusetts. So I think they'll be fine once they get back.
Pat Micheletti's on the Connecticut Water Systems hotline. That hotline resides in Ann Arbor, Michigan today because the Gophers have a series against the Michigan Wolverines. The puck drops about 54 minutes from now, right here on the Fan. Part of the reason we want Pat on today is to talk about the Gophers and Michigan game coming up immediately following us. Take us into Mariucci against the Wisconsin Badgers, 3M Arena at Mariucci. I mentioned the building, which for years people thought might be a little bit too big. Probably still is in the world of college hockey. But as we like to say about Williams Arena, when it's rocking, there's no better environment. Yeah. And having popped in for a couple of games this season, I was reminded of that. So I think, was it Motzko that said after that series or the one before, it was nice to have our team back?
Yeah, to their credit, they've been battling, the flu bug has been going around for about a month. 9 guys were sick during that Wisconsin series, and the series before that, they had guys that, could barely play at Michigan State, but gutted it out. So they're finally healthy going into Michigan, which is good. But back to the Wisconsin series. 21,000. That's the most ever in a 2-game total goal series. And, the Gopher fans have been, especially the students, have been just outstanding all season long. And that's been really, really, helpful to the home team. And so, it was nice to have a good weekend off last weekend.
Right.
They had they had a little break and now we're, the last 6 games of the year, a big stretch run. They win all 6, they win the league. And so every game's important.
So take us in now as you're ramping up for, you mentioned the regular season, just a couple of weeks left. Obviously, you've got the Big Ten tournament, then you've got the regionals. Yep. What's the best case scenario? I know everybody likes to cherry pick the regions. We want to be here. We want to be there. We want these teams in it. They're obviously going to be fighting for a top seed. Michigan State right now atop in the Big Ten and have been really, really good. So what's the best case scenario that Gopher fans should be hoping for here as you move forward to regional play?
Well, the logical place, but we never know that logic plays in all the time with the NCAA, but it's looking more and more like Minnesota will end up as a number 1 seed in Fargo. If you were to, drop the puck tomorrow on the regions, that's where they would be. And probably, overall, in the 16 that will make it, there'll be a 2 or 3 seed. And that's yet to be determined. So, Minnesota should end up in Fargo and who they play is, at this point, we won't know till the conference tournaments are over, but they're in a good spot. It's all about, refining your game and keeping everybody healthy and taking care of of what you got to take care of before the tournament starts.
A couple of years ago, we just mentioned Brock Faber. He was obviously a part of that decor a few years ago. That was maybe one of the best in history. Bunch of high profile guys. This year, as we've talked about earlier in the season on the Golden Gopher podcast, Bob Motzko thought this group might be better, and that's really saying something. Take us through the depth. Take us through how they play and how important they'll be to any type of postseason run.
Well, I remember when these guys came in as freshmen, Luke Middlestead, Ryan Chesley, and Cal Thomas. When they came in together, they were playing with Faber Lacombe and Ryan Johnson, all three guys now in the National Hockey League. And there were times during that year where Luke Middlestead was their best player, was their best defenseman, out of Faber, Lacombe, and Johnson. And so if that doesn't tell you something, I don't know what will. And so I think Bob is spot on. This group is a little bit different than the Faber Lacombe. They had probably a little bit more offense. But I tell you, now you add in a Sam Renzel, who's the number one pick, potential Hobie Baker, candidate winner, back on the blue line. Mike Kester, who's in his fifth year now, and then Middlestead and Thomas and Ryan Chesley. That group has been really, really good. And I think what really makes Minnesota go is their decor.
Surprised to see Michigan middle of the pack this season from where they've been historically. Michigan State's kind of the surprise to be up top. We know the reasons why. They got a new coach. They hit the portal hard. He was an old development coach guy, so he's got a lot of connections in that way. Michigan State probably taking advantage of the new rules in college sports better than anybody in the college hockey side. So, but the Wolverines, a little bit to me, Pat, surprising to kind of see them around that 500 mark in conference play. What's up with the opponent tonight?
It blows me away because if you look at their team and you look on paper, they're a top 5 team in terms of talent, and that's throughout the country. Their problem is their discipline. They're the most undisciplined team in college hockey. They beat Michigan State last weekend on a Friday night. Saturday night, they take dumb penalties, end up losing 6-1. Minnesota shut them out twice at home earlier in the year. And Saturday's game, it was a game where Michigan was controlling play. They take a couple dumb penalties and, Minnesota capitalizes on it. And so, it just comes down to discipline with Michigan because they can play with anybody in the country, when they stay disciplined, but that's been their big problem.
On a personal note, your first regular shift on the Gopher Radio Network road games where you're hitting the road, like I've been doing for 14 years. I know you've bounced around for Big Ten Network stuff, and obviously you do the TV games on Fox 9 and Fox 9 Plus. How you loving that road life, getting all these Big Ten cities like your boy here does?
Well, I like the charters, which I'm sure you do. Get in, you get out, you get to and even this, the team practiced at a different facility, not on campus because the ice wasn't available. And that was about 25 minutes away. And I just said to the bus driver, hey, because I didn't want to be with the team all day because then they had to come to Yost and drop off their stuff. I don't have time for that, Justin.
You got to work.
So the bus driver drove Wally and I to the hotel, dropped us off, and we had the whole afternoon. And it's been good. They treat us really well, and it's fun to be around this group of guys. They're really great kids, and you like to watch the best every night. And I'm lucky enough to be able to see that every Friday and Saturday.
Yeah, we love it. I'm looking forward to listening on the way in. We did a live listening a couple of weeks ago, and Mike Grimm would be proud of Wally and you because you complained about the officiating about 7 seconds into our live listening. Was it me or was it Wally? Because I typically maybe there was a bad call and I chimed in. Yeah,
but I typically am pretty good with the officials because I know they have a very, very difficult job. I couldn't do it. So hence I try to be somewhat nice to them. It was the Ohio State game where they had to move it up to 4:30 because of the football game. Oh, that's right. So they moved it up, so we jumped in. I'll say it was like 80% Wally, but you weren't
hesitating. You were piling on a little bit. There was a double minor, I think it was, if I remember correctly.
Right,
the officials didn't. It was the first time
they'd
been called for a penalty, which you guys noted. So I thought you did the Gopher Radio Network proud in the tradition of Mike Grimm.
But here's the deal, Justin. But you know me. I call it as I see it, right?
Yeah.
So maybe I was justified in my provocation of the officials.
Yeah, I'm not saying you're wrong. I didn't see the plays. I just said it. We noticed that it was within 7, 8, 9 seconds. You guys were right there. Where we need to be.
I always try to impress Grimmer. So
yeah, we all do.
Stay right. Yeah.
Well,
exactly.
have a great call. Thanks for popping on tonight. 6 o'clock right here on the Fan. Gopher hockey versus Michigan with Wally Shaver and Pat Micheletti on the call. Same bit tomorrow night as well. Enjoy the final couple of weeks of the regular season, my friend. We'll see you around the shop.
Yep. Appreciate you. Thanks.
That is Pat Micheletti on the Connecticut Water Systems Hotline. We're done at 6 o'clock tonight because of that. Gophers and Michigan right here on the Fan. LaVelle E, Neal III, about 15 minutes from now. Got some more text to clean up from the Wayzata Hopkins bit that we might get back to. Maybe an update or two on that story from what happened last night. And more Wolves discussion as well on what's been a puzzling, bipolar type season from the Minnesota Timberwolves. And this week was Exhibit A, with the game against Milwaukee and the game against Oklahoma City. We also have some scary clutch numbers that I want to spend a couple of minutes on with LaVelle as well. All that before we're done at 6 o'clock. Gaardsy in for Dan.
What are you looking for in a new smart TV? 4K picture quality, high quality and immersive sound, a sleek design? All of those are givens, but only the new Roku Pro Series has all of those and the Roku streaming experience, an award-winning OS. Get fast, easy access to all your apps like iHeart, where you can stream all your favorite music, radio, and podcasts all day, and regular all-inclusive trips to Roku City. The new Roku Pro Series, a smart TV built by the streaming pros.
Get ready, Minnesota. ZZ Top is bringing their legendary rock sound to the land of 10,000 lakes. Don't miss your chance to see these rock icons live at the Ledge Amphitheater on June 12th. Tickets are on sale now, and you can get all the details over at KFAN.com /calendar.
Trying to find it, but I haven't been able to locate it. I got a couple of texts to the Bradshaw and Brian KFAN text line 64686. So one of the coaches involved in last night's mess at Hopkins Wayzata may have sent out an email apologizing for his behavior and may or may not be suspended for a game. I'm trying to find it. If anybody has that, booth at KFAN.com on either one of those. I'll open that up as well. It might be easier to forward an email or hit the Bradshaw and Brian again, KFAN text line 64686. You can also tweet me at Gaardsy. We got LaVelle E, Neal III about 10 minutes from now. I'm going to spend a little bit of time with him talking about the Wolves. They wrapped up the post or pre-All-Star game break season with a classic 2025 Minnesota Timberwolves 2-game stretch. They somehow lose to Giannis and Dame Lillard-less Milwaukee Bucks on Wednesday night. They somehow lose that game. We talked about it before I hit the road to Columbus when Dan was still here, and we thought, well, this would be a game you'd like to think that they just figure it out, put their foot down, take care of this one early, not have to worry about much, and move on to Oklahoma City because the Thunder are coming in here with the best record in the West, and it'd be nice to have as many hands on deck as you can. We know that didn't happen. They somehow lose. Rudy Gobert injures his back in the process. He misses the game on Thursday, as does Mike Conley. We already know Julius Randle and Dante DiVincenzo are out. And the Timberwolves respond to another puzzling home court loss to an undermanned team, which by my count is like 4 or 5 at least. If you count Washington, if you count who else would have been in there. They've lost a couple weird ones. Miami without Jimmy Butler. I know there was one Sacramento they can't beat here in Minneapolis somehow, even though they win every time they're out in California. So you wake up Thursday morning and you say, what's really going to happen with this club? They were in a good position just a few days ago, found themselves inside the top 6 within a couple of games of the 5 and the 4 seed. Let's see a surge of momentum going into the All-Star break, and they drop a game to Miami. What are we really doing here? So what do the Timberwolves do? Because it's 2025, without those 4 players that I just mentioned, Conley, Gobert, Randle, and DiVincenzo, they no doubt the Oklahoma City Thunder last night. They beat the Oklahoma City Thunder like no one has beaten the Oklahoma City Thunder all year. Wire to wire. They never trailed. And it's just the bipolar nature of our favorite basketball club here in the Twin Cities this year, the Wolves. It's a couple of steps backward and then a giant step forward. And that's why they kind of are in the position that they're in. They have some really epic victories and some really, really puzzling losses. And that's why when you look at the standings, and I'll pull them up right now just to get the exact order as we've now hit the All-Star break, they're in the play-in spot right now. And if it ended today, they'd be hosting the Dallas Mavericks, who might not have any players by the time we play them. It'd be a Western Conference Finals rematch in the 7-8 play-in game, with the winner of that game, which would be played at Target Center, going to Memphis to take on the 2-seed Memphis Grizzlies. It's been a weird year. It's been a strange year. But there's one constant that has led to a lot of these losses. The fact that the Wolves' best player, Anthony Edwards, who didn't shoot the ball very well this week, had a dreadful night shooting against Milwaukee. Didn't shoot, I don't think, particularly well yesterday. Naz Reid had a big game, among others. Our best player has been horrific in what they call the clutch minutes. Johnny Athletic wrote about it, and it's been something that we've talked about a lot because there have been, believe it or not, a lot of opportunities for Anthony Edwards to win the game late, and almost every time, a lot of times in his career, but certainly this season, he has not been able to deliver. Not saying that means he's a horrible player. Doesn't mean I'm saying we're going to regret the Supermax that they gave him. But it's interesting and it's worth noting, and it is going to become a thing as you come down the stretch here, and theoretically they're going to be in a million more close games because that's just how they've rolled this season. Johnny writes this: Edwards is 3 of 11 this season when the Timberwolves are trailing by 3 points or fewer or tied in the final minute of games. After the game, he said a poster on X put out a compilation of every shot he's ever taken with a chance to tie the game or take the lead with 24 seconds or less left in the fourth quarter. In that time in his career, tie the game or take the lead with 24 seconds or less left in the fourth quarter or overtime, he is 2 of 21. And if you watch the video, and I watched some of it, I didn't go through all 21 shots, but I know what I've seen a lot this year. It's a lot of settling. It's a lot of iso ball. And one of the problems, I think one of the reasons why the Wolves have been so poor in those clutch minutes, which I don't remember exactly what the parameters are for clutch minutes. It has to do with time and score, has to do with win probabilities and that whole bit. But part of the reason why they haven't been very good in it is because Anthony Edwards has not been very good at it. And I don't put all of it on him. I put some of it on him. But what has gotten the Wolves going throughout this season is when they've defended really well and the ball has been moving. And I think that's why the last couple of weeks, when you've seen these younger guys get into the game, they're not playing hero ball. They're not doing the ISO stuff. They're running the system. They're running the offense. They're moving it. They're cutting hard. They're defending hard. They're going after rebounds. And I think it was the Memphis game. I brought that up a couple of weeks ago. The one that really stands out to me, the Wolves got back into the game because they were defending really well, and Dillingham gave them a really big lift off the bench. Got the ball moving, was getting downhill, finishing, passing. Rudy was dunking. And then it got to winning time, and the ball just stopped. And it just went to Julius Randle and Anthony Edwards. And the movement stopped. The flow stopped. The rhythm stopped. Guess what happens when the offensive rhythm stops? You take bad shots. You got 4 guys standing around. Ant has had a lot of turnovers in those situations as well. Go back to the Western Conference Finals if you want some pretty dramatic examples about that. Certainly games 1 and 2. You've got opportunities to win those games, and Ant in the double either turned it over or he would just turn it over kind of needlessly. That's where he needs to take the next step. And again, he's 22, 23 years old, whatever he is. He's going to be put in those situations over and over again throughout his career. But you look at the numbers and some of the puzzling close losses that they've had and the tougher close losses that they've had, a lot of it has to do with either the decision-making or the shot-making has just not been good enough from their best player. As good as he's been and as great as his three-point shot has been all season, where he's got more three-pointers than Steph Curry, which is a little, it's good, but I also say it's troubling that I'm guessing he's probably taken more than 2. And I don't know if anybody should be taking more threes than Steph Curry. But to me, it's all about that. They get to the clutch time, and what's gotten them into that position, the movement, the cutting, the passing, everybody getting a few touches, getting Ant off the ball, then giving it back to him when the defense has had an opportunity to shift. All of that stuff kind of stops. And a lot of these shots that I see on this post from the 2 of 21, are him driving into a couple of people or him trying to step back off very little ball movement. That's going to be the next step in the improvement and the ascension of Ant, is how does he handle those last couple of minutes, and how do they handle the last couple of minutes? Because they're going to be in close games, and the ball is inevitably going to be in his hands. But those numbers do not lie. 3 of 11 this season when the Wolves are trailing by 3 points or fewer or tied in the final minute of games. Last couple of possessions. You can't have a turnover. You can't have a bad shot. Is every shot going to go in? Of course not. His shot the other night against Milwaukee looked like it was good. That's his favorite shot. He got to his spot, just didn't fall. But if they want to get into the top 6, which I think obviously before the season would have been a letdown, and in the grand scheme of things would be a letdown, I think now kind of seeing how the West is and seeing how much they were affected by the trade and now how they're affected by the injuries, to find your way into the top 6 and not have to deal with the play-in, I would say would be a good salvage, and then take your chances with whoever you're playing in that 3-6 or maybe even 4-5, who knows, because they're 3 games behind LA now for the 5th spot, 1 game behind the Clippers. You got to find a way to get yourself into the top 6 and not mess with the play-in bit, and it's going to come down to those close games and those clutch moments, and that's where they're going to need more from their best player, the guy who they're building everything around, Anthony Edwards. Final segment of the show is next. LaVelle E. Neal III joins for his weekly segment. We'll maybe clean up the Super Bowl with Wobbs, as well as talk a little bit of Wolves and whatever else is on his mind. Final segment next.
Hello, iHeart listener. We have a confession to make. Both iHeart and this commercial you're listening to right now would probably sound a heck of a lot better on the new Roku Pro Series TV. It's got side-firing speakers that fill your room with sound, Dolby Atmos audio that puts you right in the middle of the entertainment, and the ability to pair seamlessly with your home theater sound systems that already have surround sound and booming bass. If all that sounds too good to be true, it'll sound even better on the new Roku Pro Series. Your hearing isn't better, your TV is.
Attention college students looking for event and marketing opportunities. iHeartMedia Twin Cities is hiring part-time brand ambassadors for our street team. Team members will be in charge of on-site marketing and activation at iHeartMedia events taking place throughout the Twin Cities. This includes concerts, live broadcasts, festivals, sporting events, and more. Apply today at KFAN.com, keyword careers. That's KFAN.com, keyword careers.
LaVelle E. Neal III is on the Connecticut Water Systems hotline. He's brought to you, as always, by Allery's Bar and Barbecue, downtown St. Paul. Your home for free parking and wild shuttles. He joins us now. What's on the LaVelle E. Neal III Friday night agenda tonight, Wobbs?
Probably watching a little hockey, some more Four Nations Cup stuff.
You've got the fever, don't you?
Don't the Gophers play tonight? Aren't you playing now?
Gopher hockey plays 25 minutes from now. Right here on the Fan. Right. We just had Pat Micheletti on live from Michigan. He'll be on the call with Wally Shaver. You've got the hockey bug, don't you?
I do. I actually talked to Pat yesterday for my column on Sunday. So I didn't realize he was at Michigan. So we chatted up, chopped it up a little bit. I like it in national competitions, man. So I fired up over the Four Nations bit. I thought the Canada-Sweden game was fascinating. Sweden coming back from the dead with the late Eriksson Ek goal and Canada winning in overtime. That's a great way to start the tournament. And of course, the United States was on point all last night. So we're off to a flying start here with the Four Nations bid. Yeah,
and the U.S. plays Canada, I think, tomorrow night as well, primetime on ABC. It is fun. I know everybody's worried about people getting hurt, and it's always a little weird when you interrupt a season to do something that has nothing to do with your actual season when you're talking about professionals. But we saw with the Olympics with basketball, right? When Steph Curry and LeBron and Kevin Durant are out there just grinding to try to get the gold for the United States and really putting everything on it. It does add a little bit of a different element. So I'm glad that the players have bought into the level that they appear that they have bought into, because the intensity, it does seem like, has been off the charts.
I'll take this over an All-Star game any year. I know Russo had the line of the year yesterday when he was on. He said this is the tournament with no past, no future, because it's going to be something else 2 years from now. But I'll take stuff like this instead of the uncompetitive all-star games that are foisted upon us at this time of year. I wish NBA could come up with some sort of international bid. They got enough countries that could put together a bid, but I think you'd see more mass defections because of load management and injury than you would with the NHL. The other thing, too, is that any professional players or NHL players weren't released for the 2022 Beijing games. So I'm guessing that there's an appetite for more of a best-on-best format. Even if every great country is not participating, you do have the best players from these best four nations going at it. And the ratings are going to be great. There's going to be thrills and spills and chills. And this is what the people want. And I hope that NHL, I hope other sports leagues are looking at this.
You mentioned the All-Star game stuff, and it is NBA All-Star weekend. And I read somewhere, Wobbs, that the NBA Players Association, they had to have a meeting. I don't know if Adam Silver led it, but somebody led the meeting that basically said, guys, we really need you to try. We really need you to go after it a little bit this weekend. We can't have the non-competitive stuff that we've had the last few years. I know they've tried to tweak the format a little bit now with the 3 teams and then the rising team, and you've got the semis and the finals, whatever that's going to be. I have no faith that that's going to work, LaVelle, because I just think, I know the intent is there and I appreciate the effort, but these guys just make too much money now. And I think any column that's written or radio segment that's produced trying to fix the All-Star game, I think it's a waste, honestly, at this point. I think the NFL has it figured out. Just name them All-Stars, bring them to a different city, bring them to a host city if you want, like San Francisco this weekend. Let them do like 15 skills events, let them shake hands and kiss babies and call it a day.
Yeah, I think so, because it's become farcical. The scores, 185 to 177, and no defense is played, and then guys don't want to play. They even tried to bribe them, right? They even tried to play the game with the winner, I think, getting a chunk of change, but these players are making so much money, it doesn't make a difference, you know? So I agree. I'd rather just have a skills competition, make them make a couple of public appearances, sign a bunch of stuff that could be auctioned off for charity events, and enjoy a couple of days off, semi-days off, at least without having to play and ground and pound, and then resume the season. Let's do that. Let's see if that works.
You can still get access to the players. They'll still make their appearances like they do, but we're just not going to get – you're not going to get Pete Rose running into the catcher, right? It's just not possible in 2025, so I'm good with that. What is your reaction? Multiple people want to know your response, I guess, that of the 3 arbiters, you were the one to not vote for Alex Rodriguez and Mark Lowry. How many times have you heard that joke this week? As soon as it was announced, I think the joke was out there. Wait a minute, I think it was your show that started it, if I'm not mistaken. It was. The news broke during our show, and Dan was the first to say it, at least that I heard, because I was in the room where Kara is right now, so I heard that. Yeah, I'd like to say we got to it first, but I can't imagine that we were the last. Yeah, you were, and then that activated the power trip. Apparently, they devoted an entire segment Tuesday morning. They did. I did have to hear that. I walked over to Barb's office to ask her something, and they were still in there, and they were like, "So, did you get any death threats?" I was like, "No, but I've been called every name in the book." So it's a 25-year-old bit. It's amazing. It's amazing it's had this much run as it has had. But no, I'm not an arbiter. I don't have a law degree. I'm not even a judge. Not yet. The only adjudication I do is at the bar. So I didn't pass the bar. I adjudicate at a bar. So, no, I was nowhere near this decision. So I want to, I'll do the disclaimer, and you talked about it a little bit last week, I think, with Dan, because what I don't think is fair to you Star Tribune guys is, if you have one opinion that, let's just say you think, it's too bad that Lori and A-Rod are going to own the team. And because Glenn Taylor, the one thing you can say about him is it provided stability. I know that Suhan got a lot of crap for, that's funny. You want to, pump up your boss. I think people are being a little naive to, I don't think Glenn Taylor's pinging your inbox on what you're writing. So I think people need to chill on that kind of stuff. So it does put you in a little bit of a weird spot, LaVelle, because he does own the paper that you write for. But what was your reaction? What was your reaction earlier in the week as this thing played out and we got the news that is provided the Board of Governors, gets the approval, which I would think is somewhat of a formality, provided they have the money, which they say that they do, that there's going to be a new sheriff in town when it comes to Wolves ownership?
So one, yeah, there could be a new sheriff in town. This still has to be approved by the NBA Board of Governors. We have to see how they're going to feel on this subject. And Glenn Taylor is a former 2-time chairman of that group. So he's probably got good relationships with some of those guys. We'll see. Yeah, we'll see if they agree that they do have the money and have the long-range plan, because they initially were the group that was going to advocate slicing the payroll, so they would avoid that second apron. And Glenn was willing to pay the tax. It's going to be looked at as a complicated stewardship of the franchise. The last few years have been fun, and they've made a run to the Final Four last year, and A-Rod and Laurie have had some influence getting Tim Connelly in here to make all the right moves, because every time Glenn tried to hire someone, it didn't work out. David Kahn and whoever you can think of trying to handle things here. And there's been self-inflicted damage that's happened on his watch. He cannot deny that. So it has not been a walk in the park here. The fans have just suffered through a run of 14 out of 15 seasons without making the postseason. So when you have that type of futility, that stuff usually starts at the top. I'm a suffering Bears fan. We're still living in the 1985 Bears, and that's damn near a generation ago. So I think we're all a little, edgy about what the McCaskey family and how they have operated things. So I get that feeling, because I'm kind of like that with my football team. But I can't sit here and like dance on the former owner and, hope the door hits him in the rear and when he walks out. I'm not going to go that far with him, because, there was a chance that the team could have moved to New Orleans. Yeah, the league nixed it. And, Glenn came along and bought the team and stabilized things. So, and there's something to be said about that. But, like I said, his stewardship of this franchise is complicated, because there's been a lot of downs, some recent ups, and some people, have long memories.
Yeah, well, I agree with everything. He should have a certain standing because of the first part, that the team was on the way to New Orleans, right? Like, right. Wolves employees at the time, they talk about the lost weekend in New Orleans. They went down there to basically see what was going on, figure out where the offices were going to be and where they were going to live. Like, that was a wrap. And he deserves credit for jumping in and saving it. He's obviously he was a rich man at the beginning. He's obviously become a much richer man after owning an NBA team for 30 years. So I'll always give him, I'm never going to completely just bury the guy. Obviously, right. The record is the record, though, right? In terms of the hirings and the firings and the Joe Smith stuff. And as Bill Simmons said, at the end of the day, he couldn't even sell the team correctly, right? They had to go to a year-long legal battle to try to figure out the team. But at least for me, speaking for me, as a guy who grew up on the Timberwolves, and they came here when I was 7 and they almost left here when I was like 12, I'll always appreciate that he stepped in, and they're the reason that this team is still here for the next generation or whatever to do it. So is it time for new ownership, though? Yeah, I would say probably. It's time to let somebody else give it a crack. And this is now the market has the new age ownership that we've talked about for the Twins side too, right? That the mom and pop stuff is kind of gone. The Taylors are going to be out. We know the Poleds eventually are going to be out. And now it's the 45 to 55-year-old demo that's made billions and other stuff. In the case of Mark Laurie, that it's their turn to kind of run things and see how it goes.
Well, things are changing now. I mean, look at today, the New York Giants football team announced that they're selling, I believe, 10% of their franchise. And this comes on the heels of the NFL allowing teams to sell shares of their teams to private equity firms. So that's going to be like the new rage now. Yep. I heard one of the suitors involved with the Twins is a private equity guy. So, that's going to be, not the Ishbias, it's someone else. So, that's going to be the next rage here in sports ownership. So, it's going to get weird. And your new owners, I don't know how long it's going to take. Let's see, comparing it to the Twin sale, they were hoping to identify a winning bid by opening day and still predicted that the keys wouldn't be handed over to mid-season. So I'm thinking 4 or 5 months for the NBA Board of Governors to do their final checks and background checks and all the other stuff they do before this is wrapped up. So by the end of the year, there's probably going to be rumblings about, where will the Wolves play long term? Can we get a new stadium? How can we make that work? I know they talked about it would be privately funded. That's poppycock, because there's a word called infrastructure that usually a city, county, or state has to pitch in for it. So they're going to end up getting 9 figures out of us one way or another to help fuel this thing. I think you mentioned the farmers market area.
Yep.
That has definitely been an area they've looked at. The farmers market guys, that's going to be an interesting one because I think they're happy with what they have. It's profitable over there. So it sounds like that's not going to be sold at a discount. Do they have other options? Will they have to build on site? I heard some crazy idea about them building on site and building over 6th Street and including Butler Square, if they can't get to the farmers market area. So, but there's all kinds of crazy stuff out there right now when it comes to where this team could play and where it should play. But that's going to start up here soon, and then over the next year, there's going to be talks about this thing. So this is what you get with your new ownership. Yeah, you're hoping that the purse strings are going to be a little loose, especially now that Bloomberg is part of the bit and the former Google executive is part of the bit. But there's going to be other things too. So get ready for a different type of ride.
And I want to say this almost every time we talk about the new stadium because they do need one. And that was one thing that actually troubled me about Glenn. And I think he was with Fox 9 when he said it, when he said, I don't know. I think Target Center's fine. I like what we have.
He's been quoted saying that. He said that in Patrick Royce's column a year ago.
Yeah,
when
that was another part of it.
Yeah.
And I don't agree with him there. And not to make it a Williams Arena thing, but even the X is getting a facelift, right? Like this stuff does need to happen all over town. And I think when you say stuff, you need to just, and you still get out a little bit, LaVelle, but you certainly were out on the baseball beat forever. And you start looking around at other arenas and other stadiums and other towns, and you start comparing it, and you go, yeah, they need something new. The Target Center had its time, it had its moment, but they absolutely need something. Shoot, look what Ballmer just did in Inglewood with the Clippers. I'm not saying they need that, but that's going to be the next generation of this thing. So it shouldn't surprise people when this comes up almost immediately. But I would also caution, don't for a second think that, if they don't get it or exactly what they want, that the team is going to move. The NBA is not moving a team. They're just not. They're expanding. They're not going to move, so don't worry about that.
Yeah, there's a difference between paying a relocation fee and getting an expansion fee.
Correct.
That's an easy way. That's an easy $1 billion or so for owners to put in their pocket. So that's what they're going to be after. So don't worry about this move to Las Vegas thing. Another thing too, Gaardsy, we both have walked around Target Center for about 20-something years now, and we've seen how things have evolved. I've seen where the media dining room has been moved 3 or 4 times through the years just to accommodate, sprawl. The coach's locker room, the coach's meeting room now has been moved 3 times, and now it's not even part of the clubhouse, or the locker room. I'm sorry, I keep using clubhouse because I'm used to covering baseball. But you see how they've kind of grown out of the old Target Center, and they probably need something a little more up to date. And this leads to another question, because Royce brought this up last week when he was at the Illinois Gopher game. Can you do a combo platter and have one arena for the Gophers and for the Wolves? I don't know if that's possible, and I don't know if Mark Coyle would like to see basketball not played on campus, because that probably would have to happen under that arrangement. But yeah, you guys start thinking about an updated barn too. On top of,
they're thinking
the
about
Vikings
that.
Need money to upkeep US Bank Stadium, and the Twins are trying to extend their funding through 2050 to make sure Target Field keeps up with the Joneses.
Let me address respectfully your colleague Patrick Royce on his idea. Absolutely not. Absolutely not. They're better off in Williams Arena not doing anything to it than a joint Timberwolves. You can't move it off campus. Look no further than moving the Gopher football team off campus to the Metrodome. Now, it's not going to be as bad as the Dome. That does nothing. No. There's just no chance that they will do that or should do that. It's just you don't move basketball off campus. You don't.
So where you put a new barn at though?
They have a couple of spots that they can. They have one particular spot that they can. They could also move it. They could also probably play a Mariucci for a year if they needed to, a year or two, and then just build it on the current site if they need to. They don't have a ton of room on the current Williams Arena spot to do it. I think they'd probably try to build from the ground up. But that's what you do. You don't do a joint venture with the Wolves and have a place where they're going. You can't. You can't even however many miles that is down the road. It's like 1 or 2. It's got to be on campus. You don't need a joint building. Respectfully, I would say no thank you to that.
Speaking of hoops, I was going to ask you about this. How plucky were the Gopher women last night?
Yeah.
Coming back against Ohio State.
It was almost mythic, Lobs. It was almost mythic. They were down 14 with like 3 minutes. They were down 11 with 90 seconds left. They tied it up with 8 seconds left and then lost by 3 in overtime. It was almost epic. And that would have been the first time they beat Ohio State since 2016. One of the best programs in the Big Ten. Top 10 win. Would have punched them into the tournament right then and there. It would have been a lock, but now they got a little bit more work to do, including against Oregon on Sunday at the Barn. But it was almost mythic, Wobbs. It was a great game. It was a really great game.
Yeah, it was hilarious because I'm at the watering hole because I need to build a man cave in the worst way. But I was at the watering hole, so we had the Four Nations on at one television. We had who else was on? Who was on other TV? The Wolves game was on against OKC. We had the Frost on a corner television when they were getting worked by Ottawa. And then on my phone, I had a Peacock network up with the Gopher women's Ohio State team. I was really in over-sensory mode.
Yep.
Trying to keep up with 4 events at once.
Did you keep on Peacock for USC UCLA women's basketball with Juju Watkins going nuts and handing the UCLA Bruins their first loss of the season in front of Kevin Hart, Vanessa Bryant, and dozens of other celebrities in LA? It was pretty epic.
Yeah, I didn't get a chance to. I didn't stick around for that. I had to head to the house, and, but I read the story this morning
awesome.
about that. So that's real interesting. And Gopher men are on that West Coast swing now with USC and UCLA. Let's see if how they fare there. I still think they've got a couple more Big Ten wins in them because they've got a beatable Penn State team and a beatable Northwestern team right down the stretch.
Yeah.
So
yeah, I agree with you.
They could still get the 6 wins, I think.
Yeah, I think this out west trip is going to be interesting because that's been kind of a death march for everybody for whatever the reason, whether it is the travel, just the newness of it all, I don't know. But a lot of teams have kind of hit some speed bumps out there, so hopefully they can avoid that. Appreciate you, man.
Michigan State lost their first 2 games in the conference on that trip.
That's exactly one of the speed bumps I was talking about. Yeah, they lost both of them. So for whatever the reason, it's been a tricky spot. Enjoy the hockey tonight. You're the best, and hopefully we'll see you around the shop soon. Thanks, Wobbs.
Take care, Gaardsy.
That is LaVelle E. Neal III making his weekly appearance on Bumper to Bumper. Thanks to Allery's Bar and Barbecue in downtown St. Paul, your home for free parking and wild shuttles. How'd the first live show go, Kara Savage?
I think it went pretty well.
Okay. Give yourself like a solid
still
B.
Alive. Yeah, I give myself a B.
Yeah, nobody died. Vibes
no one
were good.
Died. Vibes were said.
Good.
So.
Well, appreciate you hanging out. Thanks for helping today.
Thank you.
Thanks to LaVelle. Thanks to Pat Micheletti. Thanks to Pierre Newsom from Fox 9 Sports for jumping in for the first hour and change. Appreciate all the texts on Hopkins and Wayzata and all the info there. We'll see if there's any fallout from that madness last night towards the end of that game. I'm sure I'll get some texts and I'm sure I'll get some emails from people that I know on both sides of that program. But that's the fun of it. Stick around. Gopher Hockey is next. All of this podcastable on the iHeartRadio app. Gophers, Michigan, Ann Arbor, Wally Shaver, Pat Micheletti right around the corner. Have a great weekend, everybody.
What are you looking for in a new smart TV? 4K picture quality? High quality and immersive sound? A sleek design? All of those are givens, but only the new Roku Pro Series has all of those and the Roku streaming experience, an award-winning OS. Get fast, easy access to all your apps like iHeart, where you can stream all your favorite music, radio, and podcasts all day, and regular all-inclusive trips to Roku City. The new Roku Pro Series, a smart TV built by the streaming pros.
The Philadelphia Eagles are Super Bowl champions.
It's over! Fly, Eagles, fly!
Celebrate the big win with the official licensed Super Bowl champions gear. Available now at NFLShop.com.
The Eagles win it! Super Bowl 59!
From jerseys to hats to must-have collectibles, we've got everything you need to rep your team with pride. Don't wait. These styles won't last. Shop now at NFLShop.com and gear up like a champion.
Deciding on what to listen to is hard. Using Zumo to stream music from iHeart 90s radio is easy. Or play iHeart Country or Hip Hop Beats. Your choice, all for free. Stream easy with Zumo Play. Get live and on-demand entertainment with no logins, no signups, no accounts, no hassle. This February, stay in and watch Glory starring Denzel Washington and Matthew Broderick, or the rom-com Breaking All the Rules with Jamie Foxx and Gabrielle Union. All streaming free on Zumo Play. Go to play.zumo.com now. Life is hard. Zumo is easy.